here's Brody Brazil.
What a crazy last night for headlines in the National Hockey League. And obviously, primarily, I'm talking about the Florida Panthers, who win their first ever Stanley Cup. It comes in a Game 7 situation. They were up 3-0 in the series. Edmonton wins the next 3. Finally, at the very end, Florida takes care of business. Congratulations to them. And what a way for that series to end. So that's one thing. But about an hour after that game concludes, huge news from the desert. And friend of the channel, by the way, Craig Morgan of PHNX Sports reports that Alex Meruelo, owner of the inactive Arizona Coyotes franchise, is done being owner of that franchise now inactive. You could say he's walking away, or I guess you could also say he's just abandoning the Coyotes franchise. By the way, Craig, later on today, was scheduled to join me here on this YouTube channel for a chat. He and I had been talking for months and months, but about a week ago, we decided on today as the date. I'm not sure if that's still going to happen. I understand his work responsibilities, but I do want to link to his article down below, so make sure you check that out. He's done fantastic work this entire time. I really do look forward to the chance when we do get to chat. But according to Craig's reporting, Meruelo is done, and it leaves some things feeling like they're more settled, and maybe this is a better opportunity for Coyotes fans in the Valley to actually get a team back. He's had so many mistakes and missteps Meruelo has that have cost the team, and really cost the team like its location, to selling it to the NHL, having them move to Salt Lake City. Maybe this is better for the fans in the long run, but there are some other questions, like what does this mean? Does another group get to come in? Can they buy the rights for expansion that Meruelo owned? Can they buy those rights from him? What about the name Coyotes and the mascot and the colors and all that stuff? We'll get to some of the finer details in just a second, but just to recap, Alex Meruelo buys into the team back in 2019, and the franchise had always been a bit unstable in its home in Arizona, and even prior to that when they moved to Arizona. But even since then, a lot of major negative things have happened. And they moved to Glendale, and whether it was Glendale's fault for wanting a long-term lease or whether it was the Coyotes' ownership fault for not paying all of their bills, and it depends who you believe and how it all shook out, a lot of bad things were happening since 2019, and unfortunate things were happening at the very same time. The Coyotes had multiple arena pursuits failed across the region, things they couldn't get done in Mesa and Tempe, and obviously this site that they most recently wanted to buy north of the Loop 101 and just west of North Scottsdale Road. In March of 2024, this past March, the NHL commissioner, Gary Bettman, and his right-hand man, Bill Daley, they now know that Utah has $900 million for a brand new hockey arena. And to get things going, they know they have the Smith Group who wants to buy a team. They're very interested. So the NHL flies out to the desert and they ask Alex Meruelo to sell them the team to take it off his hands and to also promise the right for expansion in the 5-year window if Meruelo can build a new arena. And so there's some back and forth. Meruelo is not hot on that. He really was dedicated on trying to get something done, but it's something he had zero success in up to this point. April goes by, they play their final game, and eventually the Coyotes are sold to the NHL. The NHL turns that around, sells it to the Smith Group, and the Coyotes are essentially done, at least inactive for the time being, in Arizona. And now here in June 2024, obviously the land auction has gone away, which we'll get into in just a second, and maybe hope has gone away for the Meruelo family and the Coyotes ownership because Alex is simply walking away from the team. It feels like he's done with this team and with trying and with the process, and it's failed too many times. And he also, by the way, has $1 billion in his pocket from selling the Coyotes. Also, he still owns the Tucson Roadrunners, the AHL affiliate of the former Coyotes, now Utah Hockey Club. So that's also a side story here, something to think about. So the final straw was this. Everybody had their eyes on that 100-acre site that was going to be auctioned off. At first, it was going to be auctioned off in the spring, and then they moved it to, 3 days from now, the 27th of June. Everybody had that circled on their calendar until a couple days ago, the auction was canceled by the state. The state land department said that not all the right permits and zoning were in order for the auction to happen, for the person they thought was going to win this land auction. And so they said, we're fine. We'll do this. Once you have it all squared away, we'll resume the land auction and we'll move forward with the process. But the problem is the process to apply and get the approvals for zoning on the site. Apparently zoning was for a youth hockey arena, not an NHL caliber hockey arena at this site. And that process could take years to figure things out, to get them right, and to actually move forward with the official process of the land. And I keep saying a 5-year expansion window. I want to make this very clear. Through the reporting of Craig, we've actually understood a lot better that it was more like a 3.5-year window. In 3.5 years, they would have had to have had, Arizona would, a new arena at about a 50% completion rate. That was kind of the benchmark for progress that the NHL would have needed to say, yes, you can get your team back via the expansion process. Now, Meruelo would have had to have given back that $1 billion the league just gave him. He would have had to have given that back, but he would have then had the ownership of an actual active NHL franchise instead of whatever the Coyotes are right now in their current state. Here's what the land department said. I want to be clear about this. We touched on it the other day when they made this official, but after much consideration, the Arizona State Land Department has determined that it is in the best interest of the trust to cancel the auction and reorder the steps. ASLD recently confirmed that the proposed arena use will require a special use permit. And as a result, we are requesting that the applicant, the Coyotes, file for and receive a special use permit prior to the auction. That's the one that was going to take maybe another year as part of this process. So even this site was kind of timed out, maybe in a 3-year window. This affords the applicant and ASLD the certainty that the applicant can build what it intends to build for its anchor tenant, the Coyotes. It is not uncommon for ASLD to require applicants to secure zoning and use permits prior to application. We understand the delay in an auction is a disappointment for our applicant and members of the public, namely Coyotes and hockey fans. But the change in timing is the prudent decision for the trust. ASLD remains open to working with our applicant to bring the land forward to auction in the future if a special use permit is received. Now, the Coyotes were not happy about any of this. And what's crazy is, think about Alex Meruelo walking away, abandoning the franchise after this statement came out immediately following the land department's decision. Today, after over a year of planning and meeting every obligation required under Arizona law, the Arizona State Land Department unilaterally canceled the auction that was scheduled to occur on June 27th for the site that has been identified as the future home of the Arizona Coyotes. Well, identified by you, the Coyotes, as the future home of the Coyotes. This unprecedented action by the state of Arizona seriously jeopardizes the future of NHL hockey returning to the desert. Well, now you're jeopardizing it. Now you're walking away just 2-3 days later after this statement came out? As was announced in an April press conference by Coyotes owner Alex Meruelo and the NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, the site of the North Scottsdale Road and the 101 was identified as ideally suited to build a 110-acre mixed-use development anchored by a state-of-the-art arena to serve as the home of the Coyotes. It's been made very clear to the state of Arizona that the Coyotes are fully committed to building out the infrastructure, going through the necessary approvals, and developing the site into a world-class destination. Yet, the ASLD has canceled the auction despite the objections of the Coyotes less than a week before the scheduled auction date. The organization has worked in good faith with ASLD and has been on track to win the auction next week until the sudden reversal by ASLD the other day. By canceling the land auction, the state is foregoing millions and potentially billions of dollars that would have gone directly to K-12 education. By investing in the infrastructure of this site, the Coyotes would have unlocked over 2,000 acres of state land for development that would have returned over $2 billion to Arizona schools, created thousands of construction and permanent jobs, and created a new significant tax base to support the future growth of our state. Now, here's the part where it gets even more spicy. This is how it ends. The Arizona Coyotes are exploring all of our legal options given this short-sighted decision by the state. When you go the law route and lawyer route and lawsuit route and whatever you're suggesting, they're exploring all of our legal options. That sounds to me like you're elevating the conversation. You're turning up the temperature even more. So we go from that to this. Giving up. Walking away. And again, maybe this is all in the best interest of the Arizona hockey fan. You've already gone through it with the Meruelo ownership group. They couldn't get things done. They tried multiple times, multiple ways, multiple missteps. They're the ones that had to sell the team off to Salt Lake City, essentially. And so maybe this is all in the best interest, and maybe this won't take any longer or shorter, and it'll be the same time. Some other group will step forward and be able to expand the NHL back into Arizona. But it's interesting, the Coyotes went, and the Meruelo ownership group went from threatening a lawsuit or threatening legal action to just flat out walking away. So does the 5-year exclusive expansion opportunity that was promised to Alex Meruelo, if he's going to walk away, is it just going to time out, expire? Is it just going to float away into the ether? Or can somebody else buy it from the Meruelos? Is he going to try and double down, make $1 billion off the sale, and then sell the rights to the opportunity to expand? I'm not sure. We don't know the fine print. I imagine that's something we'll find out here in the short term. What about the name, the logo, the image rights to the Coyotes? What if there's another ownership group that comes to the NHL and says, hey, we understand this is an open market. We would like to take over this market. Here's the expansion fee. Here's everything else. We've got an arena site. We can do this. Could they be the Coyotes all over again or ever again? Or is that something you have to buy from the Meruelos? Like I said before, is this a better thing long-term for Coyotes fans? I know in this moment, they feel either like revenge has happened or they feel content because now somebody else is realizing that, that they're kind of suffering like fans were suffering. Is this what it's all about? And is it really the case of the Meruelo family to just take $1 billion and walk away and be done? Is that more of what's the easier thing to do here? It's hard, right, to go through the approvals and spend some money and try and get a development going and get all the right wheels in motion. It's so much harder that way to get your team back. You know what the easy thing to do here is? Take the $1 billion you just cashed in and go do something else easier with it. So the big question now is, will other ownership groups step forward to the NHL? Will they identify themselves? What's their process? What do they have to do? Can they pick up where Meruelo left off? Can they try something else? Do they get to start from scratch? What's the promise? Because Gary Bettman ended his press conference, I kid you not, with Alex Meruelo when they announced the sale of the team. Bettman says, and I want to say these last words, we'll be back. Okay, so you're interested, Gary Bettman, in the NHL, but how soon are you coming back? What opportunities are you going to offer somebody else if they want to bring a new hockey team back to this existing community? A lot of questions, not a lot of answers yet, but that's some pretty, I would say, surprising news. I don't think anybody had this on their bingo card, that after all the effort and after all the promises and I'll do this and I'll do that and we'll get this done. And I mean, the Coyotes made a video at one point, right? This is when rumors were very high about the team potentially selling to somebody or selling to Salt Lake City. The Coyotes made almost like a diss video to silence the haters. They used my voice in that video from YouTube videos I'd made before, and they used thumbnails of me questioning the future of the franchise, and not in a negative way. You all know I'm rooting for Arizona to have a hockey team. I'm rooting for some way the Coyotes to exist once again, and that's always how I've presented here on the channel. But the ownership group and the Coyotes made that video, and then, weeks later, they actually do move forward with the sale. There have been so many missteps here, so many hard things to understand. In reality, maybe all of this just got a lot easier, a lot more simple. I guess we're about to find out. But Alex Meruelo, according to Craig Morgan in his reporting, is done, is walking away, is abandoning the Arizona Coyotes. Hey, you've made it here to the end of this video. You know I really appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. That'll greatly help me in this video and this channel. And if you're just seeing me for the first time, I'm glad you found me. Really do appreciate that. I want to make sure you have the opportunity to come back. Go down there and hit that subscribe button for me right now, so I definitely get to see you back here next time.